This is a presentation from the Supernaut Network.
Hello, welcome to episode 9 of Resist or Serve, the X-Files podcast here at the Supernauts. I left out the limited part because, as my co-host Puck Propaganda kind of prognosed the last time, this is probably not going to be the last episode. Am I right?
Probably the last one for a while, but someday we'll be back.
Yeah, so the revival series, or as they are now officially calling it, season 10, as it always was gonna be, it's now over. The last episode aired about 2 weeks ago, and in this podcast we're gonna go through each of the 6 episodes with our own thoughts.
Yeah.
But first, a couple of X-Files news. The first piece of news is probably not noteworthy, but it was said that they are now going to release a series of young adult novels about the lives of young Mulder and Scully, which I don't know.
It doesn't even make sense.
maybe with Mulder, but I mean, I don't remember any bizarre events in Scully's childhood happening, at least what they have said on the show.
No, and I mean, you obviously lose out on any interaction between the two unless they're going to do some massive retconning. So yeah, it's kind of a stupid idea, but I mean, it's young adult books, so I guess it's not really going to have an effect on anybody that really cares.
Yeah, and I mean it's Fox, so you know they're going to cash in with anything they got. So.
Yep.
But yeah.
Very true.
And well, on other piece of news, Chris Carter has confirmed that if they can fit the timetables with the actors, they will definitely be back for another season.
Yep, and I don't see that being an issue.
No.
I mean, it's mostly Chris Carter and the actors that were pushing for it to begin with, more so than Fox. So.
And the ratings.
I don't see it being a problem.
And the ratings were pretty high, so.
Yep,
of course,
ratings were very good.
So Fox is gonna want some more of that.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for the news. So let's get on with season 10.
It'll probably start on a Friday. What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia. Driven by a well-oiled, well-armed, and multinational group of elites. Using alien technology that government's been hiding for 70 years. Like yourself, I'm a true believer. What I need is your expertise.
You said if I ever put the pieces together that you would confirm.
And have you?
I've seen something.
You're nearly there. You're close.
I can't do this alone.
Yeah.
I'm here.
They police us and spy on us. Tell us that makes us safer. We've never been in more danger.
Then do something about it, Mulder.
I have seen this before. You're on fire, believing that you're onto some truth, that you can save the world.
This is my life. This is everything I believe in.
You are on dangerous ground here.
I know what I'm doing.
We have a small problem.
Episode 1, My Struggle, written and directed by Chris Carter. And we begin with kind of a narration by Mulder. He's sort of recapping everything that has happened so far. And we kind of get a glimpse of what Mulder's life has become. I mean, he's pretty much a depressed recluse. It's very clear that he and Scully are not together anymore. Since last scene in the end of the second movie, and it's pretty clear that they did not depart on such good terms. And Scully is working as a doctor again in the same hospital she was working in the second movie. And well, then this internet conspiracy journalist called Tad O'Malley contacts Skinner and asks him to kind of get Mulder and Scully in for a meeting, because O'Malley has some big reveal that he's gonna make soon. And well, he introduces Mulder and Scully to this young girl called Sveta, who claims to be a multiple abductee. You know, she has all the scars from the tests, and she has some fragmented memories that, you know, she was impregnated and her fetuses have been stolen and whatnot. So Scully takes Sveta to her hospital to make some tests, and meanwhile O'Malley takes Mulder on this little tour, introducing, for example, a replica of an alien craft that's in some mysterious warehouse that has been built. I guess this kind of takes Mulder out from his coma a little bit when he sees the alien technology.
Yeah, he's pretty impressed.
Yeah, he is pretty impressed. Yeah. And meanwhile, Scully discovers that Sveta indeed has some alien DNA in her body, and Scully tests herself and finds out that she has the same, obviously from her previous abduction. And the episode kind of boils down to Mulder and O'Malley kind of rediscovering discovering a new conspiracy that's basically created by the remnants of the syndicate and the military and whatnot, that as the alien colonization has been kind of put on hold, these military guys have decided to take control and kind of colonize the Earth by themselves using hijacked alien technology. And the episode kind of ends with O'Malley's website being pulled off and Sveta being blasted up by well, I guess it's another alien replica UFO, I don't know. But anyways, you know, all things have gone to hell again, and Mulder and Scully basically get back on the job where they always belonged.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, so my kind of random thoughts about the episode. I mean, I really love that kind of opening, you could say, flashback of the Roswell crash, kind of recreated, where this young scientist is taken to the site and there's a wounded alien that's trying to crawl away from the ship, but the military man just gunned it down. And that was a pretty effective scene.
Yeah, I really liked that as well. The UFO crashing and stuff was pretty high production value for a network TV show as well.
Yeah,
really well done.
Yeah, and I also I really liked Joel McHale's character. I mean, he's probably one character who is even a bigger conspiracy nut that Mulder has ever been.
Yep. Yeah, I liked him as well. I mean, I didn't think he was, great, I guess, but he was good enough. I just had a hard time disconnecting him from his character on Community.
Yeah, it's
because that's just kind of how he acts anyway in general, in anything I've seen him in. So,
yeah.
But yeah, he still did a fine job. A little over the top, but I mean that's what they were going for with the conspiracy nut anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And kind of tying it in with the current events.
Yeah, I liked how they did that as well.
Yeah. And of course, we had that big reveal at the end of the episode that the cigarette smoking man is very much alive.
Yep.
But
that was great.
Not looking so healthy though, but
no, not looking the best.
No.
And the missus that played Sveta, Annette Mahandru, she was pretty good as well.
Yeah.
I thought she did a fine job. Yeah, she's in that American show that I still haven't gotten around to watching. Apparently, she's really good in that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not. There's too many shows on TV.
I know.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty much with you on this one. It's I liked it. Really good episode. Great.
I think I have only one little beef by it that
Yep.
it might have worked better as a 90-minute episode.
Yes, I agree with that. It probably did cram a lot into 40-ish minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess really they didn't have much of a choice with only 6 episodes in the season.
Mm.
So I can't really fault them too much for doing what they had to do with the episode. But yeah, it probably would have worked better with 90 minutes. Or maybe even as a movie, this might have been a good one. But yep.
I mean, there's this moment when Mulder and O'Malley are kind of taking turns in talking about the conspiracy, and feels like it's so much exposition that you almost have to watch that scene like 3 times to get it all.
Yeah. Yep. And before leaving off with this episode, one thing I'm going to kind of do at the end of each of these episode recaps is kind of address complaints that I've read online about certain things with each episode.
Surprise.
So I guess, yep. So for this one, I guess it's the whole Mulder saying the entire alien conspiracy thing is a ruse, which he's clearly exaggerating. If anyone's ever watched the X-Files before, would understand. And that this supposedly retcons the entire series, which, again, is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's always been conspiracies on top of conspiracies and stuff that turned out to not be real on the X-Files. I mean, you just kind of have to roll with it for now, and eventually you'll get the full story, right?
I mean, yeah, we I guess in the final episode, My Struggle 2, they kind of explain that a little bit more.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a television show. It's not a fucking movie. You're not going to get everything like up front.
Yep.
And even in regards to that conspiracy, like even right away, I could explain it away by basically the whole thing was a parallel conspiracy. It was one that was basically being hidden more or less by the other alien conspiracy, and it was just kind of working in the background as a second option, more or less.
Yeah,
right? It's not the only conspiracy. It was just there at the same time, and it was unknown.
I mean, as we saw in the series, the Syndicate was always kind of working behind the aliens' backs as well as with them.
Exactly. Yep. So yeah, I hopefully have squashed that, but obviously that won't be the case because everyone's going to complain about something. But yeah, so that's hopefully squashing that one anyway, and there will be more of this in the next few episodes.
Yeah.
This is dangerous.
Why has that ever stopped us before?
Where is he?
get you.
The X-Files, an all-new episode, tomorrow at 8/7 Central.
So, moving on to episode 2, Founder's Mutation, written and directed by James Wong. Well, basically, Mulder and Scully are now back in the Force, and they're investigating this mysterious suicide of a genetic scientist called Sanjay, who in the opening scene, a very effective and gruesome opening scene, is kind of in the middle of a meeting when he starts to hear this high-pitched sound, and it keeps getting louder and louder, and afterwards he goes back into his laboratory and ends up sticking a letter opener in his ear.
Yep.
But before that, he writes this sentence in his hand, which is the title of the episode, Founder's Mutation. And we find out that the founder is kind of the big founder of this genetic, whatchamacallit, research facility,
I guess,
called Augustus Coleman, played by Doug Savant, who's, I guess he's most known from Melrose Place. Well, it turns out that Coleman is kind of working in cahoots with, Department of Defense, which kind of ties back into the conspiracy thing. They are trying to do some genetic manipulation, and it turns out that Coleman has taken the first rule of a mad scientist's rule book and has taken his work home, has experimented with his wife, and that has resulted in there being 2 kind of young adults who have telekinetic powers, and they are pretty much ticking time bombs with very little control over their abilities, and that's kind of what's been causing these deaths. So that was that kind of in a nutshell, I think.
That pretty much sums that one up. Like you said, the opening to this one's really well done as well. I mean, that's pretty much going to flow through all these episodes. Really, the openings are awesome. But this one's great. It uses that typical X-Files technique of presenting something familiar that you've kind of seen before, but then with a bit of a twist. Because the whole sound thing, I've definitely seen that in something before. I can't remember what it was.
I mean, it was in a couple of episodes, but that was just kind of hidden signals in radios or TVs, but this is a bit different because this sound is from a teen trying to read your mind.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I was thinking outside of the X-Files, even that I've seen that sort of thing before in a movie or something. I just can't place it. But anyway, then you get the twist with the whole the children thing and the him writing the message and trying to destroy the computer equipment.
Yeah.
So a little bit different, but something similar. X-Files does that a lot, and I liked it. I also like that they started bringing up the Williams stuff.
Oh yes,
because
I mean
that's a big deal. I mean, I'm glad they didn't like kind of fudge over it and ignore it. It's important to the story, and they need to keep with that because regardless of if he is alien or has any powers at all anymore, he's still a huge part of that Mulder-Scully dynamic.
Yeah, and this is definitely not the last time he's being addressed in this season.
Nope, definitely not. There's also another really good scene I liked in this episode was the one with Goldman's wife, Jackie, and revealing more or less what happened to her and why she's being, I guess, locked away there now as well, and what happened for her kids to be born and that sort of thing. Small role, but really well done. Kind of like a monologue, which we'll get to another monologue in the next episode, but kind of a monologue performance that's really good.
Yeah. And of course, as Department of Defense is again back in the proceedings, we have another shady character sitting in Skinner's office.
Yeah.
Which brings me to an issue, but I will address that after we've gone through the episodes.
Okay. And so other than that, guess I'll bring up the criticism that I've heard of this episode, which is even dumber than criticism for the first episode. And that is that they don't really explain what happened to the siblings, Kyle and Molly, after they escape. Because the X-Files has never done that before. Like, almost, I wouldn't say every, but I'd say at least half the Monster of the Week episodes end that way, in that the monster survives and we don't know what happens to it, or the characters go off somewhere else.
Yeah, it's true.
But it doesn't fucking matter because Scully and Mulder's involvement is done, so who gives a shit?
They could kind of go somewhere and start a school for gifted young children or something.
Exactly. And that's where the X for X-Men came from. So yeah, another dumb complaint, but yep. This one definitely didn't get as many complaints as the first episode, and it's kind of one thing I would like to see. I forgot to take a note of this, but I just remembered it. Is this episode was supposed to be 5th in the order, and the one that's 5th was supposed to be 2nd. So I'd like to see what they actually changed, because I heard that they did have to change a few lines of dialogue around and that sort of thing to make this fit in as the 2nd episode.
Yeah, I mean, I read that same thing about the switch, but after seeing the episodes, I can't see any.
Oh yeah, I mean it works seamlessly. So I mean there would seem to be something kind of major if they did have to change any of the dialogue.
I mean the only thing that would have happened with the switch would be that the younger agents would have been introduced in the 2nd episode, but that I think in the current order it makes much more sense.
Yeah, I think it's fine in the current order. I'm thinking maybe they might have added a bit of dialogue to make Mulder seem a bit more skeptic maybe to this episode, because that gets clued up in the next one.
Yeah.
Which would have made, chronologically no sense, I guess, later on. But yeah, either way, hopefully the DVD or Blu-ray release gives you the option to watch like the original version and the alternate version.
I mean, that'd be cool. At least on the previous DVDs, if there was not an alternate version of the entire episode, there would be some deleted scenes at least, I guess.
Exactly. So yeah, and I'm sure there's probably some deleted scenes from that first episode as well. Due to how they kind of crammed everything together, I'd say there's definitely a longer cut of that first episode.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Right now, we are in deep trouble.
We've been given another case, Mulder. It has a monster in it. It's a fresh kill.
So we're looking for a man-sized horned lizard with human teeth.
Mulder, the internet is not good for you.
The X-Files, all new next Monday on Fox.
Yep.
But yeah, so moving on to episode 3. Mulder and Scully meet the were-monster, written and directed by Darren Morgan. And Mulder and Scully are dispatched to Oregon, where there's a dead body found in the woods, and the prime suspect seems to be this sort of a lizard creature. And as is usually the case in Darren Morgan episodes, this murder kind of takes a back seat when we are kind of introduced to the sad tale of this were-monster, or I think I've read somewhere an alternate kind of title for the episode that Mulder and Scully meet the were-man, which would have been more fitting, actually.
Yeah, probably would have given away the I guess, twist a little bit, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, the big twist is that this lizard creature is actually a lizard in its natural state, and during this murder scene in the beginning, the lizard creature gets bitten by a man, and he's cursed to transform into a man at daylight and then revert back to his lizard state at night.
Oh God.
Which is...
I can't stop laughing at that.
Yeah. I mean, okay, where to start? I mean, I think my first reaction via Twitter to this episode was that, Darren Morgan is still the man, capital T, capital M.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there's no point in even recapping the rest of the episode because it's so weird. Just watch it and find out for yourself.
Yep.
But yeah, it's easily the best episode of the season, and I mean that's not even a knock against the other episodes from me. But even the critics that don't like the other episodes acknowledge this is a great episode.
No, I mean, once again, it proves that when you take David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, you put them kind of playing against types. I mean, it just, you know, it's pure magic.
Yeah. Yeah, so, really funny episode. It even kind of keeps you on the toes a bit as to who the killer is. It even ties back into the other episodes somewhat with the whole Mulder getting his kind of resolution to questioning his faith right at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as a standalone episode, you can't really get much better than that when you incorporate other stuff as well.
I mean, from the first scene. I mean, the first scene again reintroduces a couple of old familiar characters, a couple of stoners that previously appeared on War of the Copperfakes and Quagmire, who they seem to be kind of smoking their dope in all the wrong places all the time.
Yeah, they don't have much luck.
Yeah, and another thing, well, the were-man or the were-monster is played brilliantly by Rhys Darby, a New Zealand actor who is probably most known for the TV show Flight of the Conchords.
Oh yes, love him.
Yeah, I mean his sad tale about when he woke up as a man the first time was he had this bizarre urge to get a job.
Oh yeah. His monologue in this episode is, I mean, I would honestly say it might be the funniest thing that's ever been written in the X-Files, period.
Yeah.
And I read online, too, that Rhys Darby, because he generally improvises a lot of his comedy in shows, and he said he didn't improvise any of that. That was word for word Darren Morgan. And he kind of, it threw him off a little bit at first because he didn't change anything. He wasn't used to just reading everything as written.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a monologue about how horrible it is to be a human.
Yeah. So I mean, and it does. I mean, I guess he does add to it by like his delivery and comedic timing is just amazing. So that adds to it. But yeah, it's so fucking funny.
Yeah, and Darren Morgan, of course, again introduces things seen from other people's points of view, which may or may not be true when the when the creature called man, of course.
Guy man.
Guy man. Basically describes a meeting between him and Scully in a phone store where he has finally gotten his job, which is basically a scene from a porn movie.
Yeah.
Which is again one of his strange human impulses is to watch porn in his motel room.
Yeah, and strange human impulse to lie about his sexual encounters, which is also common. So.
Yeah. And of course, he gets pretty quickly promoted in the phone store because he finds out that he has this strange ability to bullshit.
Yeah.
And the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah.
I mean, and this whole monologue is taking place at the cemetery where there's a nice little homage to the late director of X-Files, Kim Manners, whose name is seen on a tombstone.
Yep.
And of course,
there's homage to someone on the other tombstone too. I just can't recall their name.
I can't remember those other names. Manners is so prominent that.
Yeah.
And of course, to kind of add to that, I mean, Mulder and Mann are kind of having drinks while they're having this conversation, and Mulder has passed out, and he wakes the next morning on Kim Manners' tomb. So.
Yep.
Wherever he is, he might be smiling a bit.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah. So yeah, just I guess, back to the were-monster. I mean, that reverse were-monster is what I'm calling it. That concept, I don't know if that's ever been done before, but if it hasn't, it's fucking astounding that it hasn't, because it's so perfect and simple. It's an idea, and you're like, how the fuck didn't I think of this myself?
Yeah, I think a lot of writers might. I think a lot of writers might be feeling that.
Yeah, but yeah, so kudos to Darren Morgan actually getting that out there before anyone else.
Yeah.
Assuming he didn't steal it, which I hope he didn't.
I just hope that he has some similar ideas for the future.
Oh yes, hopefully. Doesn't seem like he writes very often for anything else nowadays, so I mean, hopefully he's just storing ideas for new X-Files episodes.
I mean, another kind of hysterical bit in this episode is that Mulder is kind of so hell bent at getting some visual evidence of the paranormal that when he sees the lizard creature for the first time, he doesn't even pull out his gun. He pulls out a phone.
Yeah, I love that.
Running after the creature, trying to get some video or photographs, and of course he doesn't know how the camera works for shit. I mean, everything that he has kind of photographed is just mess. I mean, the video he has taken is from his own face when he's screaming in terror.
Yeah, oh, so good.
Mm.
Yep. And I guess we should mention Kumail Nanjiani as well. He played Pasha in the episode, who turns out to be the actual killer.
Mm.
And I mean, he was pretty good. I mean, he kind of comes off as the samey in everything he does as well.
Yeah.
But again, I've only seen him in a couple things, so I mean, I might not be true in that assessment.
Yeah,
but he was good.
Yeah, of course, in the final scene when he's kind of going to reveal his motives or whatnot, and they just kind of rub him off. Say that for the judge. we don't want to know.
Yeah. It's definitely a thrill for him, though. He's a diehard X-Files fan in real life, so he definitely enjoyed that. I think I read that this one was the hardest to shoot because it was really warm or something in Vancouver while they were filming it, and the only reason they got through it was because of Nanjiani was so happy the entire time. Everyone else was kind of down in the dumps, and he's just like, "Yeah, this is awesome! I'm shooting an X-Files episode, woo!"
Well.
So.
If it was so hot, then that might explain the shot of David Duchovny lying on the bed with the red briefs.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if that's some kind of a nod to Red Shoe Diaries or something. I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, I think the Speedo thing was a nod to a previous episode where he was seen in a Speedo, or they commented that he wears red Speedos or underwear or something like that. I can't remember the exact episode it was referencing, but yeah, there's something to it. It was definitely another throwback to something.
And through Darren Morgan style, we get our weird kind of supporting characters like the psychiatrist, who is basically writing descriptions for anyone, even Mulder. and after Mulder leaves, he pops a couple of pills himself.
Yeah, he was great.
And then there's that creepy motel owner who has peepholes in every room and secret passages and whatnot.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the complaints for this one, there aren't many.
It was too short.
It was too short, yeah. I heard from one of my friends said that his parents didn't like this episode. They were big X-Files fans, and I was like, why? And he said they just didn't find it funny, and I was like, well, okay, I guess. I mean, comedy is pretty subjective anyway, so I mean, if you don't find something funny, someone else will. So it's kind of a strange complaint, I guess, to have. I assume they're older, and I guess a lot of the humor in this episode was a bit more to my age group sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, us technology-obsessed people. But yeah, anyway, other than that, and I mean, I'll bring up Abe's complaint about the X-Files ringtone for Mulder being a bit too meta.
I mean, all of Darren Morgan's episodes are filled with meta stuff.
Yeah. Maybe they went a bit too far with the X-Files theme song as the ringtone, but I mean, I'm not gonna begrudge the episode at all because of that. Little things like that, who cares?
That's right. Okay.
They said that you two have experience with these spooky cases.
We used to.
Next Monday.
Where was the victim found?
His head is in a trash can here.
Not even in the proper recycling bin.
It's a conspiracy of terror that's simply brilliant television.
It's not alive. It's not dead. Magic.
Which is impossible.
The X-Files, an all-new episode next Monday on Fox.
Yep.
So, episode 4. Home Again, written and directed by Glenn Morgan. While investigating murders of city officials who have been mistreating homeless people, Scully gets a call that her mother is in a hospital, and while she is trying to cope with the kind of loss of her mother and trying to get a hold of her estranged brother, Mulder investigates the killings, which seem to be made by a giant man or a monster who moves from place to place in a garbage truck. And in the end, it's revealed that this is some sort of a physical manifestation of a street artist's paintings that is kind of bringing out all the what should I call them?
I think they kind of refer to it as a thought form, similar to an episode.
Yeah,
that we've discussed in the past.
Yeah, it's even called a Taupa, which they call the shit monster in Arcadia.
Yep.
And it's a pretty similar entity. I mean, these also again kind of comprised of garbage. So.
Yep.
But yeah, so Scully's mother dies. And another proof that family members are never safe in this show.
Yep.
And we hear for the first time the voice of Scully's other brother called Charles. And I think there's been kind of he's only appeared in a childhood flashback of Scully before. Or am I right?
Yeah, I believe that's the case, yep.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right, yep.
No. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid Monster of the Week episode.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is I kind of ranked the episodes a little bit, and this would probably be my second favorite of the run of the 6 episodes.
No.
It's basically a return to an actual scary X-Files episode. Also dealing with Scully's like familial stuff.
I mean, the killings that this monster makes are some pretty fucking gruesome stuff. I mean, it's basically ripping people to pieces.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, Band-Aid nose man.
Band-Aid nose. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just tearing people apart, ripping their arms off, and
heads off,
throwing them in the trash, essentially. So, yeah, it's pretty bad.
I mean, another thing that in this episode, there's another allusion to William.
Yeah.
Which is also the name of Scully's other brother, and also the name of Mulder and Scully's son. And it's kind of, I guess Scully's mother is a bit confused, or is she, when she kind of talks to Mulder as the father of her grandson. But it's another way they keep this plot kind of alive.
Yeah, and great performance by Anderson in this episode with the whole grieving for her mother and just thinking back on the whole past decisions that they made. So yeah, stellar performance from her, which is always the case with, is it Glenn Morgan? That who wrote this one?
Yeah, Glenn Morgan is.
Yeah, with his episodes, he always does a lot of these nice episodes with that are Scully-centric.
That's true. I think the only kind of question I have for this episode is, which I've written in longhand here, is who the fuck was driving the garbage?
That's true. I never thought of that. Yeah. I guess it was magically driven by the Band-Aid nose man.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, it's a little thing.
Yeah.
And of course, a Glenn Morgan episode, a great use of a classic song again. This time it's Downtown by Petula Clark, which plays at the background of one of the most intense scenes in the episode.
Yep, used expertly well. And the Band-Aid nose man, like I said previously, he's genuinely terrifying, because I mean, he's this huge fucking dude that's really powerful, and he looks creepy as hell.
Yeah.
And I'm not familiar with the guy that plays him, John DeSantis.
Yeah.
But I was looking him up on IMDb, and he's a huge motherfucker. So I wouldn't want to run into him at all.
Nope.
And as for the guy that created him, who they call Trash Man, he's played by Tim Armstrong of the punk band Rancid, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I know who he is. So it's pretty cool that he got in there.
Yeah. And kind of a nod to Banksy, I guess, also.
Yes, exactly, that's true. Complaints about this one. The only complaint I could find really about this one was the people are getting tired of the Williams stuff, which, I mean, if you're tired of the Williams stuff, then what the fuck are you watching X-Files for? Because, I mean, it's not like they're just gonna... Well, I guess they could have. They could have said, yeah, let's screw the Williams stuff. Let's not write about that. But obviously they're... Yeah, but, I mean, they have to keep with that. I mean, it's the child of the main characters. They obviously got to fucking write that shit in.
Yeah.
They're not just going to say, oh, yeah, we had a kid once. You know, good times. Let's move on and investigate some shit. It's obviously going to come up. So, I mean, yeah, another dumb complaint, but whatever. People are stupid.
Okay. And regarding people's opinions...
I'm Special Agent Miller. This is Special Agent Einstein.
I'm a medical doctor. And you're obsessed with the paranormal?
That's why we're here.
There's only one episode left till the X-Files season finale.
One of the bombers survived.
He's dead, except for a heartbeat.
I'm proposing that I can communicate with the terrorists.
I pity that poor Agent Scully.
It's like my dream assignment.
You are suggesting if I were to go through with this lunatic scheme.
What is lunatic about exactly?
Everything?
So that's a maybe?
The X-Files, all new next Monday on Fox.
Episode 5, called Babylon, written and directed by Chris Carter. After an art gallery in Texas gets destroyed in a suicide bombing, Mulder and Scully meet the young agents who are investigating this crime, Agents Miller and Einstein, who, well, it's pretty obvious from the first sight that they are basically the younger versions of Mulder and Scully, where Miller is the more a believer of the unknown, and Einstein is the more practical one. So, as Mulder feels that Scully is still kind of recovering from her mother's death, Mulder calls up Einstein, and he wants to communicate with one of the two suicide bombers who is still alive but in a coma. Mulder wants to communicate with him via some magic mushrooms. And meanwhile, Scully meets up with Miller, and they are trying to go for a more technical solution by using, what is that, an EMI machine to kind of try some simple communication through brain waves. And all of the four kind of meet up in the hospital room, and some bizarre events follow.
Yep, some strange stuff.
Yeah. I didn't hate the episode like so many people seem to hate, but I had some mixed feelings about it. I mean,
yeah, I've got some stuff too for this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole interplay with Mulder and Scully and their kind of younger counterparts is, I mean, it's almost a comedy. I mean, there's some hysterically funny stuff, but it kind of felt odd at moments to laugh at this episode when it still deals with this very current issue of Islamic extremists and suicide bombings. I mean, it's one of those weirder kind of combinations of two teams by Chris Carter.
Yeah, it's tonally off. Yeah. I guess is what you'd say for this episode. Yeah. It's a bit mixed in a way it probably shouldn't be, considering the subject matter. But I mean, I don't really know how. I guess I guess you could have done this episode better if it was a different case. If it wasn't about terrorism and that sort of thing, which, I mean, that whole plot is a bit lame in and of itself, I guess, but it's timely based on the current world and American climate and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I can let it slide that they wanted to go with that. It's just they kind of tonally didn't hit it out of the park, I guess.
I mean, you can see the kind of weird weird kind of tone when you start the episode with a very kind of harrowing scene of two suicide bombers driving to their target and blowing themselves up, and then you get this comedy scene with Mulder and Scully in their office with the young clones. I mean, it's just all the parts don't work together here.
Yep. So yeah, this one's the weakest of the lot. I think you'd agree with that. Though I still had fun with it. I mean, I don't think it's a bad episode either.
I mean,
I enjoyed it.
I mean, the Mulder's drug trip is.
Yeah.
I mean, it again shows Duchovny's kind of gift for physical comedy.
Yeah, his drug trip is pretty hilarious. Yeah. Completely absurd, but very, very funny.
And I also liked how they paired these up, that, Mulder is basically working with a young Scully, and Scully is working with a young Mulder.
Oh, yeah. I liked how they were incorporated, definitely. I mean, was it Lauren Ambrose and Robbie Amell playing the young agents? I mean, I really liked them. I thought they did a very good job.
Yeah, I mean, if I were...
Agent Einstein's name notwithstanding, it's a terrible character name, but I mean, it's a name. Who gives a shit?
I mean, if I remember correctly, we had some reservations about these characters, but they ended up working great.
Yep. Oh yeah, yep. I thought they were perfect. I mean, there's really nothing I can say that's bad about them. They both had good performances. Agent Einstein is aggravating as she should be. So I mean, yeah, people could be turned off from her based on that, but I mean that's the character. You can't really complain about her performance at all.
And she's basically Scully from seasons 1 or 2, in a way.
Yeah, probably a little bit more abrasive than seasons 1 and 2 Scully, but that comes with the day and age we're in.
Yeah, but yeah, they're definitely in the weakest episode of the bunch, because Chris Carter he combined the wrong elements in this one.
Yes, correct. I did think of something though as you were doing the recap. They must have changed some lines of dialogue in this episode as well, because you mentioned how Mulder had reservations about going to Scully with this because of the death of her mother.
I think that could be something that they added. Yeah.
That would have had to have been something they made a slight change to, because if this was supposed to be the second episode, the mother's still alive. So
I think that's the scene where there's some added lines.
Yep. Yeah. So in switching these two up, it actually kind of makes more sense for this episode for Mulder and Einstein to partner together. Because otherwise, why would have Mulder have went to Einstein instead of Scully, other than the fact that Scully probably wouldn't want him to go on a mushroom trip. But yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess we basically covered the complaints for this episode ourselves. But one other thing I'm kind of, I guess, unsure about with this episode is that Einstein mentions that she gave him a placebo.
Yeah.
Instead of actual mushrooms. Now, my thinking is she has to be lying just to cover her ass.
Yeah, I'd guess so.
And if that's not the case, I don't know if I'd buy Mulder just kind of going absolutely crazy and on that trip over a placebo. I mean, he's a bit crazy, but I don't think he's that insane.
No. I mean, it's either that or maybe Mulder knew she was going to give him placebo and he got some of the real stuff. Who knows?
Yeah, I guess that's a possibility, that's all. And then they further clouded with the whole word of God thing with the whole trumpets. So maybe God was speaking to Mulder, blah, 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 and sent him on the trip. But, I mean, regardless of if he was on the mushrooms or not, the God still could have spoken to him while he was in his mushroom-induced haze.
Well, that's I mean that's Carter bringing in the religious stuff again, which I really don't like. I have never liked.
Yeah, not a big deal for me, but yeah, I guess I'd like them to say whether or not, maybe they have. I don't know. I haven't read every interview, but whether or not it was a placebo or not. Because if it was a placebo, it kind of makes the episode even a little worse for me.
And of course, during Mulder's drug trip, we get a little glimpse of the lone gunman in his hallucination. I mean, I like the fact that they kind of just they're on the background. They don't kind of showcase them in any way. It's there for you to see, and if you didn't notice, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's kind of an Easter egg.
Yes. Which is fine, but it did slightly annoy me that they brought him back just for that. I guess I kind of wish they had a bit more of a role, like someone else that I'm pretty sure you're going to bring up later on in our overall view.
You know, I guess that confirms that they really are dead.
Yeah. So I guess that's that. Yeah, because I can remember somewhere reading that Carter didn't want to follow the comics where they were alive, so I guess they really are dead.
Yeah.
That's that.
That's that. And of course you get Skinner line dancing, so, you know.
Yeah.
We're back with the discovery of something that's so shocking, you'll want to prepare yourself for the truth.
Tad O'Malley has been making claims. Alien DNA lurking in every American citizen. Put there without your knowing it. Put there by whom?
Who sent you? You set this in motion. Now you're gonna put a stop to it.
Far too late for that, Fox.
Lines of communication are being cut. Systems are falling. It would now appear we go out with a deafening silence.
The X-Files finale, next Monday on Fox.
So, then on to the final episode, episode 6, My Struggle 2, written and directed by Chris Carter. And, well, it's a continuation of the first episode, this time with a voiceover by Scully, kind of also recapping things from, not so much recapping things from the previous seasons as to the events of this season, and her discovery of her alien DNA. But yeah, so Tad O'Malley returns, and as he returns, we are starting to see signs that there's some kind of epidemic going on, and Mulder has gone missing, and while Scully and Einstein are trying to kind of make sense of this epidemic, which seems to attack people in every different way. I mean, basically killing their immune systems. I guess some describes it as AIDS without the HIV virus in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Scully is contacted by Agent Reyes, who tells her the truth that this epidemic has been put to motion by cigarette-smoking man and the conspiracy to kind of begin their takeover of the world. And meanwhile, Mulder, the cigarette-smoking man, has sent for Mulder, but you know, Mulder beats the guy who came to pick him up and goes to meet cigarette-smoking man by himself, and is starting to show signs of illness also. And cigarette-smoking man basically confronts Mulder, saying that, you know, I have a cure. You know, do you want it? I'll get you a seat at the big table. But you know, Mulder refuses. And cigarette-smoking man basically confirms that this conspiracy is kind of, you know, it's still a colonization, but he just kind of changed the timeline.
Yep.
Yeah. And he also reveals that, you know, he has literally become a two-faced man when he removes this large prosthetic from his face. But anyway, Scully uses the alien DNA in her own blood to create some kind of a vaccine, while the city is kind of going into a full-blown panic. And it seems to be successful, and she tries to get a vaccine to Mulder and Miller, who has picked Mulder up from the cigarette-smoking man's place. And they all meet on this bridge, and Scully discovers that Mulder's condition is far more deteriorated than the vaccine would help that, and she mentions that she needs what the hell was that?
Stem
cells. Yeah.
Stem cells.
She needs stem cells from their son, William. And at that moment, a giant UFO appears over the tree, on the bridge, and we cut to black.
Yeah. And pissed off everyone the world over.
Well,
except
you
me.
know,
Probably you.
This was what I think it was an advantage that we watched all the episodes in the last 9 months, because, and this is something that Chris Carter stated also. Every season ended in a cliffhanger. Every goddamn one. I mean, I don't see what the problem people have with that.
No, I don't either. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Even season 9 ended with a cliffhanger, technically. I mean, is there going to be an alien invasion? Where's Mulder and Scully going? Blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, I don't know. I loved the finale. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, once again, a lot happening, and I guess my beef with the first episode kind of fits with this one, that this could have used maybe 30 minutes more time, because again, it's
that's true. Again.
It's another kind of exposition bomb, if you could call it that.
Yep. But other than that, I mean, I don't really see anything wrong with the episode at all. You got William B. Davis back, cigarette smoking man.
Yeah, I mean, he's
a little angrier than he used to be, but I mean, he got blown the fuck up in reconstructive surgery, so he can be as mad as he wants.
I mean, in a way, he has become even a more satanic figure than he was before.
Yeah.
I mean, like he describes himself to Reyes, that he's the most powerful man in the world.
Yep. And I like to. There's a very small, almost throwaway remark he makes about how it started. They kicked off the whole Contagion thing in 2012.
Yeah.
So that kind of ties into, okay, well, where's the alien invasion in 2012? Oh, that got defeated, so let's do this instead.
Yeah, like he says.
I like that.
He says he just moved the timetable.
Yep. And then there's Reyes and her. I guess a lot of people are saying, why did she make this decision to help him? Blah blah blah. Well, she said she didn't really do it all just to help him. She was going to try and bring him down from the inside, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't completely self-centered. But yeah, Reyes was good, just as good as she was in the original run. There's no real difference to her character at all, other than that decision. And characters change, so what can you say, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, like, what did she said? It was she's been 10 years in with the cigarette smoking man for 10 years or something. I don't.
Yeah, something like that. It was 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no mention of Doggett though.
No mention of Doggett. Poor Doggett. Maybe he'll show up in the next season.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just busy doing that Scorpion show. Who knows?
I don't know. Some other notes. Joel McHale, of course, returns as Ted O'Malley, who's he's reporting about this epidemic as it progresses, and also he and his studio crew are also getting sicker and sicker. I mean, it's kind of reminded me of the opening of the original Dawn of the Dead, where the news group kept reporting while the zombie plague was moving forward.
Yeah, I liked him a lot more in this episode. I guess it was because he was a bit more subdued, I guess, as he's getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did like him a lot more in this episode. And as for that Contagion plot, I thought that was really good. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do to have a widespread, killing of humanity. Mm-hmm. And Contagion's really one of the only things you can go with there.
Yeah.
So on that wide scale, I think they use that fairly well, given it is a television show and they only have so many minutes.
Mm-hmm. And you know, cigarette smoking man is kind of waving that cure on Mulder's face, but Mulder will have none of it. He will never work with this guy, not in a million years.
Yep. And then like we already said, the ending that everybody complained about. I mean, it's a good ending. I don't see why you'd want a resolution after 6 fucking episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's 6 episodes. You can't tie up everything.
No.
In 6 episodes. Not well, anyway.
Yeah.
So if you wanted a shitty ending, I guess you could have had a shitty ending.
Yeah.
But obviously they were hoping it was going to be a success. They were hoping that they were going to get more, and it paid off. There will be more.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later. And yeah, so we'll get more Mulder and Scully, and maybe someday an actual real ending. But for now, we don't get that.
Or an ending for Mulder and Scully, and maybe Miller and Einstein will take over at some point. Who knows?
Exactly, or something like that, or like my proposal from a couple of years ago now, I think, that their son gets involved and carries on the show.
Well, now I
as
think
one
that's,
of the main characters.
you know, they have to bring him in now if they need his stem cells to save Mulder. So something like that is bound.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So he's definitely going to be involved. It's just unlikely he wouldn't be involved in the capacity I would have hoped for.
Unless
I was hoping maybe he'd end up growing up and being in the FBI and that sort of thing as well. But we'll see.
Unless he was the one who was flying that UFO, who knows?
Oh, maybe. That would piss people off. Yeah. So yeah, I guess now we get to overall stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have like about 6 different pointers here. I mean,
yep. Go ahead.
Just first note, it was interesting aspect of this season that every episode was directed by its writer. I mean, I don't think that has happened ever before, that every episode of the season has been directed by the same person who wrote it.
That reminds me of something else. I think one of the other complaints about the Weremonster episode was the direction was a little iffy.
What?
Darren Morgan directed the episode. I don't know. I don't even pay attention, man. Like, I honestly can't even think of a comedy where I've paid attention to the direction, like, unless it's like blatantly bad. I've never really noticed like good direction in a comedy. I love a lot of comedy movies. I mean, I'm trying to think of some to say. Like, I mean, Basketball is one of my favorites, but I would never think of Basketball having good direction or bad direction. I don't think of direction when I'm thinking of comedy. It's just, I guess, timing and that sort of thing on part of the characters.
I somewhat pay attention to those things, and I thought that the direction was fine in that episode. So
yeah, so I mean, I guess if you were really nitpicky, maybe you could have found some issues there. But I mean, I've watched the episode twice, and I'm not going to watch it again looking for direction miscues. So fuck that. But anyway, yeah, you're right. The writers all directed their own stuff this time, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe they can get Vince Gilligan back for an episode next season.
Well,
he can direct and write one.
Well, that brings me to my second point, which is that, you know, I hope. Well, you can always hope that they would bring back more of the kind of old familiar writers to the show, like Vince Gilligan, Frank Spotsnitz, John Shiban, Howard Gordon. But I mean, all those guys are pretty busy with their own shows. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's probably thanks to the X-Files that they have so much work nowadays. I mean, Gilligan, of course. Definitely. Gilligan, of course, has Better Call Saul. Howard Gordon has Homeland, and now he's working on the next 24 season. John Shiban is working on Da Vinci's Demons, and Frank Spotsnitz is working on the Man in the High Castle series at HBO. So, I mean, all these guys are pretty busy. Get some new people, you know, young writers, if you can't get these old familiar guys, but, you know, some more fresh voices. I mean, my mates...
Oh, yeah, some new voices would be great as well.
I mean, this season was so much of a Chris Carter show. I mean, he wrote and directed 3 episodes, and, you know, I'd like to see some more new angles on the stuff. I mean,
especially if they do more episodes.
I mean, as Babylon proved, you know, Carter is not the all-knowing guy. I mean, he sometimes he fucks it up, you know. So.
Yep, sometimes. But yeah, he's perfectly fine for the mythology stuff as far as I'm concerned. So I mean, really, they could have just used, I guess, one additional writer for this season or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they stretch it out to like 12 episodes next season, then yeah, they should have some new writers for sure.
I read from somewhere that they did have 7 scripts, but for some reason that 7th never got used. I don't even know from who it was, but you know.
Okay.
Other than the Chris Carterisms being a bit too prominent, my one big beef about this season 10 was that, you know, Skinner was so fucking underused that it just makes me angry.
Oh yeah, Skinner was definitely underused. And it's weird too because he's in the opening credits, I think, of every episode, like right after Duchovny and Anderson, and so you expect him to have a bigger role.
I mean that's that was the one big beef that I have with the whole season is that Mitch Pileggi was prominently featured in the promo pictures and posters, and he got his name on the opening titles, and basically it looks like he shot his whole part in like day or half a day, if that,
I'd suspect some cut footage of him.
It's a glorified cameo, basically.
Yep.
And and then the fact that his character has basically been regressed back to what he was in season 2.
Yeah.
He's
I'd say there's probably some cut footage of him from the premiere and the finale, but even then, he was definitely underused.
Yeah, I mean, basically he's been regressed back to kind of scolding Mulder at whenever Mulder does something wrong, and again he has that Department of Defense guy sitting behind his shoulder, so it's like back to status quo with Skinner. I mean,
well, he does encourage them in the second episode because I mean they're supposed to stop the case.
Well, yeah,
and then he's kind of like, on behind the scenes, kind of keep going at it, guys.
And that's basically his only kind of character beat.
Yeah.
And how the hell or is it some kind of a punishment for what he did back in the previous seasons that he's still an assistant director?
Yeah, probably. Years. I can't see them promoting the guy, so I can buy that.
Yeah. But that's my biggest problem. One can only hope that they kind of beef up his part in future episodes.
Yeah, hopefully. So I've pretty much given like all of my good. So now I'm just going to address some of the overall complaints, I guess. Number one of which is people bitching about the characters having changed. The show's been around for basically 23 years now, and the characters are supposed to stay exactly the same according to these people. And if they did stay exactly the same, they'd be bitching that the characters haven't changed. So, I mean, you can't win.
No.
The fucking characters have grown over the course of 23 years in the realistic time frame of the show, and I guess whatever. And I mean, they have to change and have different motivations, and circumstances of their lives are going to make them act differently. So, I mean, again, it's just another stupid fucking complaint. That's mostly coming from, I would assume, people that watch regular network shows where characters don't change, like in sitcoms and shit like that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't even understand a complaint, because in the golden age of television we're in now, change is the main thing or catalyst behind most of the really popular shows like Breaking Bad. Walter's not the same fucking Walter he was in the first episode.
Oh, definitely
not. Right? Even Tony Soprano in The Sopranos is different, and characters in The Wire and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and the characters change. So.
And the characters in Game of Thrones are mostly dead, so.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the complaints that makes that's stupid. Another one, well, I mean, everyone complains about Chris Carter's writing, and we already touched on this a bit, but it's kind of hard for me to accept criticism of the guy when he's kind of been criticized all the way along for the most part outside of the mythology ones, and even some people complain about the convoluted mythology stuff, which I'm fine with, but I can understand people not liking. So yeah, the Chris Carter criticisms don't really hold a lot of water when it's been there forever, essentially.
And he is hit and miss, Sometimes
he is
sometimes he gets it and sometimes he don't. I mean, this season we got hit and miss, so
Yeah, exactly. And with the compressed season, you're going to notice that more. I mean, if this was a 24 episode season, Chris Carter's misses would have went unnoticed, or mostly unnoticed. They definitely wouldn't have been blown up as big as they are.
No.
and his dialogue is always criticized a lot, but I mean, the X-Files dialogue has always been a bit quirky and strange like that anyway, so I don't really mind. Yeah, that's really the only other two things I wanted to address, other than my sort of final big rant, which is the fact that so many people had problems with this revival, and the critical and public reception of it is very varied. And essentially what that all boils down to is the fact that we only got 6 episodes, and that's not enough time to please the wide array of X-Files fans. And that's the thing. Unlike most shows, where the fans are kind of the same, the X-Files fans are fucking diverse.
Yep.
I mean, there's people that only watch it for the mythology stuff. They only watch it for the standalones. They only like the scary episodes. They only like the funny episodes. They might have only even watched the show occasionally, but they still liked it because that's the kind of show it was back then. There's tons of X-Files fans that haven't seen every episode.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, to try and please everybody in 6 episodes is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of harkens back to, you know, the fans were divisive back in the old days, but, you know, the internet is much more prominent nowadays, so...
Exactly, that too. Yep. So, I mean, really the only people they could please with a short 6-episode run was the diehards, I guess, like myself and you and a few others.
Yeah.
And even we're going to find a couple complaints like we did.
Yes, yes.
But other than... And I mean, the diehards are a very small portion of the fan base compared to the overall fan base. So you're obviously going to get a lot of backlash with this short run, and that's what they did get. But the ratings prove otherwise.
Well, the
so
ratings were off the roof. I mean,
exactly. People tuned in regardless.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're going to get more, and maybe we're going to get more episodes, like a 12, I would suspect, is what they're going to try to aim for.
Yeah.
And then some of these complaints will go away because they'll be able to have more time to please more people.
That is true. That is true.
Yep. And I mean, it was the cost of doing business for them to get this 6 episodes. Fox didn't want to put a lot of money into it because it could have bombed massively.
Yeah.
And but they took their 6 episodes, did the best they could, and now they're going to get more. So I think it was a win-win for everybody.
Yep. And we'll probably get a chance to continue this podcast at some unspecified time in the future. And, well, by then
we've got, I guess, Anderson's not. I don't know if she's busy at the moment.
I mean,
I think they just completed filming. Was it The Fall? That was called? I think it's The Fall. I can't remember the name of the show.
Yeah, it's The Fall.
Anyway, the one that takes place in Northern Ireland. I think they just finished filming the new season of that.
No.
And she's obviously not tied to Hannibal now.
Well, obviously.
So I think she'll have time free. And Duchovny, I believe he's still working on that show with NBC, Aquarius.
Yeah, I guess. It did get picked up for season 2.
Yeah. So once he's done with that, I mean, they should have time to get to filming another season of the X-Files then, hopefully. That would be best case scenario, and get it ready again for the same time next year.
No. That would be pretty good.
Yep, that would be good. I mean, in today's TV, though, I mean, it's not out of the norm to be waiting a year and a half. Like, we waited a year and a half between half seasons of, like, Mad Men and shit. So...
Yeah, and the last season of Sopranos as well, I think.
Yeah, last season Sopranos. I think there was a large break, or a large gap between the half seasons of Breaking Bad, too.
Yeah, was it like a year and a half, or even 2 years? I can't remember.
Yeah, Sopranos was definitely long.
Yeah. Almost 2
I mean,
years.
Mad Men's was long. Yep. So, I mean, it's not out of the norm to wait a while now, and I guess it's unfortunate due to the cliffhanger ending. People want a resolution right away, but, I mean, that's just how it is nowadays.
And like I said, it's not, you know, back in the old days, it was a year's wait after every goddamn cliffhanger, so, you know,
yeah.
I'm used to it.
Yep, no big deal.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess that wraps everything up.
I guess it wraps everything up for now. So,
yep.
It's been a great ride doing this with you. I mean,
oh yeah, definitely. Lots of fun.
Yeah, I basically managed to revisit like 70% of all the episodes that were made in this 9 months.
Not bad.
And found some new favorites and and still like my old favorites. So, well, I guess I could say that this has been Resist or Serve, the X-Files podcast here at the Supernauts, and to be continued.
See you all again in a year's time or so.
Yep.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. Downtown, just listen to the music of the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalk where the neon signs are pretty. How can you lose? The lights are much brighter there. You can't forget all your troubles, forget all your cares, so go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. No finer place for sure, downtown. Everything's waiting for you. Downtown. Don't hang around and let your problems surround you. There are movie shows downtown. Maybe you know some little places to go to where they never close. Downtown, just listen to the rhythm of a gentle bossa nova. You'll be dancing with them too before the night is over. Happy again. The lights are much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles, forget all your cares, so go downtown, where all the lights are bright. Downtown, waiting for you tonight. Downtown, you're gonna be alright now. Downtown, and you may find somebody kind to help and understand you. Someone who is just like you and needs a gentle hand to guide them along. So maybe I'll see you there. We can forget all our troubles, forget all our cares, so go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. Don't wait a minute more. Downtown, everything's waiting for you.
Hold on. Another Skype thing. Yeah, so Mulder and Scully go to Oregon where there's a... God damn it! Hold on.
Skype is the conspiracy. Skype is the global conspiracy.
No, it seems to be so. Okay, let's try this again.
I'm cutting you off now, too.